All right, just wanted to make this quick video about these new iPads. Apple announced the new regular iPad as well as the next generation iPad Pro with the M2 chip in it. And I don't know if you've seen it, and I'm not going to do anything super fancy, well, fancy for me in this video. So I'll include the link to Apple's YouTube video, and you can see everything you need to see there. But yeah, I mean, they're more iPads. I kind of have had that feeling for a while. Uh, I did purchase the most recent iPad mini, and I had it for, maybe a couple weeks and then sold it because it's just a big iPhone. And if I need to be productive, I end up just using a laptop. And before anybody says, oh, you're just an Apple hater or you don't like Apple, whatever, because I've definitely done my fair share of iPhone hating, I have two MacBooks and I thoroughly enjoy using them because the form factor of a laptop truly allows for productivity. And in terms of portability, yes, the MacBook Pro is a little heavier than the MacBook Air, but I wouldn't say that the MacBook Pro 14-inch isn't portable. And they try to make it sound like, oh, the iPad is the definition of ultimate portability. And it's like, yeah, by itself, it is a little bit lighter. And I don't have all the specs up in terms of, well, how much does the iPad weigh if you combine it with the keyboard case? And then don't forget your Apple Pencil that you probably have as well. So it's just that, of course, it's another market that they're trying to grab share in, which they have probably 99% of market share in the tablet field. But yeah, new iPads. And I'm just going to quickly go over what's available. And again, the link to Apple's YouTube video will be in the description. And they do a far better job of everything in terms of editing than I ever can. But of course, you have 4 different colors: silver, blue, pink, and yellow. Great. Storage capacities. And again, this is just for the regular iPad, not the iPad Pro. But for storage capacities, they do it again, where 64 gigabytes for the base, 256 for the maximum amount of storage. I would have hoped that once they made the iPhone's base storage 128, they just would have did that or would have done that across the board. And just briefly to go over to the iPad Pro, I do know that the base storage configuration for the new iPad Pro is 128 gigs. And I don't know how long it's been since the base storage for the iPad Pros has been 128, but I just don't ever really understand what does the word pro mean, which I assume is short for professional when it comes to any of the products that they actually make. So you're telling me that an iPhone Pro has 128 gigabytes worth of storage for its base storage, but then so does the regular iPhone. But the iPad Pro has 128 gigs for storage, but its regular counterparts do not have 128 gigs of storage. Like I just don't get what is meant by professional when it comes to anything that Apple actually talks about. So yeah, I just don't get why do certain professional devices have one thing in this category or in this market segment, but in this market segment, the same things don't apply. So I don't know. But anyway, back to the new 10th generation regular iPad. Now, they'll say it's edge-to-edge display or full screen display. Like, there are clearly still bezels around the screen, which, again, I am perfectly fine with bezels. I just don't like when companies market their displays as edge-to-edge when they aren't, because, yeah, you can see the black borders all the way around the display. Of course, Wi-Fi and cellular options. Touch ID is now in the power button, which is cool. They've put the front-facing camera on the, I guess, side of the iPad, but it'll be the top if you have the iPad in landscape mode. And now there's a smart connector, which, cool. All right. Here's the big thing. So this new iPad, 10th generation, does have a USB-C connector. And we'll come back to that momentarily, but I think that is definitely a direction in the right, or a step in the right direction, making sure that this device has USB-C. And by hearing that it had USB-C, I also made one other assumption, and that brings me to right here. This iPad still supports the first generation Apple Pencil. And I'm just not sure why. I get it's older, so probably still cheaper to make. But even the second generation the second generation Apple Pencil is now 4 years old, so it can't be that much more expensive to make that. You would have to do the little magnetic thing in order to charge the second generation Apple Pencil, so that would have made this new iPad, a little more expensive. But it is $100 more expensive than the previous generation iPad. So I'm not sure why or where they're choosing to cut costs. Like, why do they do that? And then, of course, it says, and because in order to charge the first generation Apple Pencil, you need a lightning port, because that's how it would charge. You stick it into the lightning port, because it had a little lightning connector. But here, the little note says, pair and charge Apple Pencil first generation using USB-C to Apple Pencil adapter. So you got to buy the iPad, then you got to buy the Apple Pencil. But then to charge the Apple Pencil, you got to buy an adapter. Like that is nauseating. But it is what it is, okay? It comes with the Apple A14 Bionic, which, according to Apple's website, that A14 was in the iPhone 12 series. So definitely not this year's chip, not last year's chip, but the chip before that. So we're talking a couple years old. And I don't know if they planned on doing that. And I don't know if that was a decision where, well, we can't put this year's chip in the iPad because it's the cheapest one, and that makes sense. But we also can't put last year's chip in this iPad because this year's regular iPhone 14 also has last year's chip. So we got to go 2 years back. So I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if since they're still selling the iPhone 12, maybe they just have a bunch of A14s lying around. I don't know. But yeah, definitely not the most modern iPad there. And just a bunch of stuff with the cameras that I don't really particularly care about. One thing that I thought was interesting, it says native DisplayPort output over USB-C. And this is where I will admit I don't truly understand how all of it works. So DisplayPort is a physical port, which I don't have a laptop right now that has a DisplayPort port on it. So I actually lied. I did find a machine that does have a DisplayPort on it. So this right here is a physical DisplayPort. This is a USB-C port. So Apple is saying that the protocol, I guess would be the best word of saying it, of DisplayPort can be sent through the USB-C port. And just for reference, this up here is an HDMI port. But then I wonder, what type of transfer, like data transfer speeds are we talking about here when it talks to this USB-C port? Because it's definitely not a Thunderbolt port, because they would have said Thunderbolt. It wouldn't surprise me if it were still USB 2 port. Native DisplayPort over USB-C. That does not necessarily equate to fast data transfers. In my opinion, I honestly don't know, but it seems like you could have data streams going, for whatever, and then you also have the port for data reasons. And yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they capped those speeds at USB 2 speeds. I don't know, but somebody will test it, I'm sure, and then we'll be able to have a definitive answer. And the reason I even bring that up is, as many people are expecting, hoping, Apple's kind of being forced to do it, next year's iPad or the year after that is going to have a USB-C port on it. And some people are under the assumption that USB-C automatically means fast data transfers, fast charging. That is just simply not true. You can have USB 2 over USB-C. You could have just standard charging rates over USB-C as well. Yeah. So knowing Apple, that would seem like the thing that they would do. But I don't know. I'm not a huge iPad person. I don't know if I've said that. I think I said that at the beginning. So I'm not even really going to talk too much about the new iPad Pro. But it just seems like the main difference between the previous generation iPad Pro and the next one is the fact that this one now has an M2 chip in it. Sorry. One thing I did not mention for the 10th generation iPad, the first iPad I was talking about, is that it now has there's a Magic Keyboard Folio. So yeah, I guess it doesn't work with the regular Magic Keyboard cases that already exist. So they probably created a new one for it. But the big thing is it now starts at $449 instead of $329, which is the price of the 9th generation iPad that Apple is still selling. So if you still want that older one, it's still available, still appears to be at the exact same price. I do see, and this isn't important for most people, but looking at the new iPad Pro, the iPad Air, and then this new regular base model iPad, the two more expensive iPads say fully laminated display. So my understanding of a laminated display is you have the glass and the digitizer and all that, and you have the actual LCD or OLED or mini LED display, and they're essentially glued together. But it doesn't appear that this base model iPad has a fully laminated display, so maybe repairs would be easier in the event that you damage it. Good on Apple for releasing something new, I guess, but also good on them for not making an event out of this, because yeah, this definitely was not event worthy. Oh, one thing that I forgot to mention, because I honestly wasn't paying attention to it, because I don't plan on buying either one of these products, but as speculations we're talking, and it looks like it's confirmed, there is no headphone jack on this new base model regular iPad. And yeah, if you want it, it's available to buy at some point. When can you get it? It says order now. Can I buy it now? Available on the 26th.